Oh, here we go again. Another streamer with extremely deep pockets trying to take away one of the crown jewels at ESPN. And this isn't just another crown jewel, this is the crown jewel. Because without the NBA, I don't think ESPN can survive. ESPN can survive without the NFL. Hell, they barely have the NFL right now. When YouTube beat ESPN for the rights to NFL Sunday Ticket, it was a loss, but really wasn't all that big of a deal. Losing the Big Ten to CBS, that sucked, but ESPN could survive. If ESPN loses the NBA, it's over. This network will be buried in the woke cemetery between the donut diva Brian Stelter and Donnie and his lemons. But KC, ESPN can afford to lose the NBA. They're the exclusive home to the WNBA. They also had the broadcast rights to March Madness. The WNBA is not an asset, that's a liability. During the summer, ESPN looks for just about anything to broadcast other than the WNBA dump. If there is a pickleball tournament, it takes precedence over the WNBA. When the dancing queen Jackie Mahomes made his debut at Club Shay Shay, took precedence over the WNBA. ESPN, they also don't have the broadcast rights to March Madness. They own the rights to the women's college basketball tournament. There is a huge, huge difference. March Madness is a guaranteed ratings draw. March Madness generates billions of dollars in revenue every year. Every so often, the women's tournament manages to capture national interest, but for the most part, the women's tournament is an afterthought. The upcoming negotiations between ESPN and the NBA, it is going to be different than every negotiation they've had in the past. Both organizations are standing at a crossroads. Right now, the NBA has a serious problem. The league is finally starting to rebound. They're finally starting to recover from their decision to be baptized and born again and become crusaders in the fight against mythical racism. So far this season, NBA ratings, they've been impressive. Last I checked, I think the NBA was averaging 1.8 million viewers on ESPN and TNT. I think the league is going to average 2 million this season on both networks, which that's something they haven't done since 2012. The NBA is trending in the right direction, but they've got one serious problem. Local games that are not nationally televised, which makes up the majority of the regular season for most of the teams in this league, local games in the NBA are damn near impossible to find. Bally Sports, complete disaster. The regional model's been a huge embarrassing failure for years now, and Adam Silver, he's yet to do anything about it. ESPN is also standing at a crossroads. The network is losing billions of dollars. Profit is down 20%. There were massive layoffs this summer, with ESPN eliminating the woke welfare from some of their biggest woke stars. After years of laying off old white men, ESPN finally ran out of old white dudes to fire. This past summer, no one was off limits. They were even forced to fire the beloved pastor at Woke United Methodist, Father Jalen Rose. They went out and broke the bank for Pat McAfee, hoping his YouTube audience would translate to linear television. Everyday viewers of this channel know it ain't working out. There have been rumors that Stephen A. Smith is looking to leave the network, which we predicted would happen here on the channel 2 years ago. But that's okay. That's okay. Because ESPN already has their replacement for Stephen A. with the grown man that calls himself Shay Shay. Now, much to my surprise, Shannon Sharpe, he's actually performing extremely well during his weekly appearances on First Take. Believe it or not, Shay and A, they actually spend Monday and Tuesday mornings talking about sports and not mythical racism. I mean, who would have thought? A show centered around sports on a network that claims to be the worldwide leader in sports, who would have thought that show would actually draw an audience? Over the years, ESPN has been able to lose stars. They have been able to lose broadcast deals, and they've still found a way to survive. Lost the NHL? No big deal. Scaled back their coverage of Major League Baseball? Who cares? People aren't watching baseball anyway. The one thing that ESPN cannot afford to lose, the most valuable asset at the network, is the NBA. The problem is, ESPN is at serious risk of losing the NBA. Last month, there were reports starting to surface that Amazon Prime was interested in bidding on the rights to broadcast the NBA. Thursday Night Football has been very successful for Amazon. There is a proven market for sports within their base of millions of subscribers. At the time, though, I didn't really take these reports too seriously. I mean, a lot of networks express interest in the NBA, but nothing really happens. But then I saw Jay Marine's appearance on Andrew Marchand's podcast with the New York Post. Jay Marine is the global vice president at Amazon Prime. In the business world, he's what they call a decision maker. In the streets, they would call him a shot caller. During the interview, they asked about his interest in the NBA and why Amazon would be interested in the NBA. Watch for yourself.
They've built a fan base that is worldwide, right? It's a very global game. And a very young fan base. And I think Adam and team have done a great job over there at really leaning forward and into the future. And they're very forward thinking. And so any broadcaster would be excited, be a part of the NBA. And I think you're seeing, I'm sure many are looking at it, one of the biggest leagues in the world, and people care about it. At the end of the day, do Prime members care about it? Is it important to their life? As a result, can it be meaningful in terms of the value it adds to Prime members and the Prime program? And I think NBA is true on all of those fronts.
Okay, so we've got clear interest in the NBA from Amazon Prime. Adam Silver has stated that this upcoming deal with the NBA was going to be different from deals they've made in the past. Adam Silver is looking to collaborate here. He wants to have streaming partners, but he also wants the league to remain on linear television. Great news for ESPN, right? Amazon can be the NBA streaming partner. ESPN can be their partner on linear television. Everybody wins. Look, I have never been a part of billion-dollar negotiations before. I have never negotiated broadcast contracts or broadcast deals with networks, but from my novice perspective, looking at this purely from a common sense perspective, I don't understand why Adam Silver would want to extend the NBA's partnership with ESPN. For starters, ESPN's analysis and coverage of the NBA, it sucks. I mean, it absolutely sucks. Bally Sports is a huge embarrassing failure, but at least they've got competent broadcasters. Well, they have competent broadcasters in New Orleans anyway. Joel Myers and Antonio Daniels, best broadcast team in the business. Watching NBA games on ESPN is an absolute slog. It's painful. ESPN hires their NBA broadcasters based on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Doris Burke is great, but most of the women that ESPN has calling NBA games, they don't know shit about the NBA. I am looking at this from the perspective of Adam Silver. All right. We have a broadcast partner in ESPN who has proven they are incapable of providing great coverage of the league. I'm looking to lock my league into a broadcast deal for the next 5, maybe even 10 years. There is a lot of uncertainty right now with the future of ESPN. For the first time ever, Disney is separating themselves from the network. Disney is looking to sell minority ownership in ESPN. Oftentimes, new owners mean new directions. If I'm Adam Silver, and I'm looking for a broadcast partner, I'm not looking for uncertainty. I'm not looking for a network with a questionable future. I'm looking for a network, a partner that can provide my league stability. Over the past few years, with the constant layoffs, the never-ending controversies, declining revenues and profits, do you think ESPN has proven that they can be stable? Another problem for ESPN, the NBA has other potential suitors on linear television. Amazon is interested in providing coverage for local games for every team in the NBA, but Amazon also wants access to the NBA playoffs. If you're Adam Silver, that's kind of a risky proposition. You want your postseason games to be available to the widest audience possible. Who gives you that opportunity? NBC. NBC has expressed interest in partnering with the NBA again. And unlike ESPN, NBC's already proven that they can provide adequate coverage. Now, obviously, TNT is interested in keeping the NBA. Apple TV is interested. I would imagine that YouTube will be interested since they've been sponsoring the NBA Finals the last few years. Gonna be a lot of networks approaching the negotiating table. Outside of ESPN, they all have one thing in common: leverage. The The NBA has leverage, obviously. They're going to be like the premium wiener at Club Shay Shay. The NBA will have plenty of dudes fighting over them. Amazon, NBC, they've got leverage. They don't need the NBA to survive. NBC produces plenty of original content. Amazon obviously has millions and millions of hours of available content. TNT, they have already publicly stated that they want to keep the NBA, but they don't necessarily need to keep the NBA. The only party involved in these negotiations that's going to be approaching the table with no leverage, ESPN. And that is the absolute worst place you can be. Like I told you guys before, ESPN does not produce original content. Well, Casey, what about their opinion shows? What about PTI? What about First Take? Yeah, what about them? Those shows are completely worthless in less than 24 hours. ESPN can't run reruns of First Take. They can't air reruns of PTI. No one would watch. Not to mention the fact that for the majority of the year, both shows centered around the NBA. ESPN is at a crossroads, and it couldn't have come at a worse time. While ESPN is still extremely profitable, both revenue and profit are declining. Adam Silver is looking to double, possibly even triple the NBA's value, the broadcast rights. Amazon has deep pockets. NBC, deep pockets. They can negotiate from a position of strength, where ESPN could be negotiating from a position of weakness. I have been telling you guys for years now, I think ESPN ceases to exist, at least in its current format, by the year 2030. One of the reasons I have felt so strongly about this, I think ESPN is going to lose the NBA. I just don't see how it benefits the NBA to remain with ESPN. Amazon can handle local broadcast, TNT can be their partner on cable, NBC could give the NBA access to broadcast television along with superior analysis and coverage. ESPN needs the NBA a hell of a lot more than the NBA needs ESPN. But, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe ESPN works out a deal with the NBA. They'll host a celebration of rainbows and woke wieners, and they'll call it the ESPY Awards. I don't see it happening, but I've been wrong before. Do you think ESPN keeps the NBA? If they lose the NBA, do you think ESPN can survive? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate you guys and your continued support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.